economy grows faster than the money supply, which means you stop the government overspending and the waste, and the output of real useful goods and services exceeds the increase in money supply, you have no inflation. And you also drop the interest payments that people pay. The reason the interest payments are so high is because the national debt keeps increasing. So the government is competing to sell debt with the private citizens. This drives up the interest rate. If you cut back on the deficit, you actually have an amazing situation for people because you get rid of inflation and you drop the interest rates. And that means people's mortgage payments go down, their credit card payments go down, their car payments go down, their student loans go down. Their life becomes more affordable and their standard of living improves.
All right, wanted to start off with that today. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. I'm sorry I was gone for 3 days last week. I did get a lot done. I got my car for my mother-in-law, so she's got a Tesla Model Y. She's still in Panama, but she should be coming back. I think we'll fly her back in like April. So she's got a nice little surprise for her. Actually, we've already told her about it, but she's very excited about it. I also bought, I don't know if I said this, I bought my nephew a Tesla Model 3. So we're going to be picking that up on the 20th of March in roughly 10 days. So he's very excited about that too. And then, mug of the day, I'm going Trump today. Why not? He's the one, him and Elon Musk are doing all the work, right? They're putting forth the effort right now, which is what I wanted to focus on today. Also getting a nice little bounce on Bitcoin. If you look at the bottom left, right, I got to point this way, but I got to point to the left, but it's in the right-hand corner. It's looking pretty good. And this trend, guys, down here, again, this goes back to 2021. So this is a trend. This is a nice back test. I mean, we aren't really that much higher than the peak of 2021. And so I get the disillusionment from people, if that's a word, from going from 69,000 at the end of 2021 in November of 2021 to 83,500 today. We haven't really seen that big move yet. We'll be talking about a lot of that, though. I think we're very bouncy today. Not even sure I'm going to do any trading today. TLT's up 1.1%. So maybe we can get a 6 to 10x that with the underlying, with the options contracts. I think once we get that big breakout, which we'll look at, we're going to be looking at a bunch of charts today. I think that will look a lot better. But I did want to start off with this, okay? I wanted to start off with what our objectives are, okay? Again, we're trying to lower rates. This is what Scott Bessent keeps saying. This is what Elon Musk is saying. This is what everybody is saying consistently, is that TLT to 120, I think very likely. I think 110 is very easy, but we'll look at that later. That's where the trough is on the price action, which is right where my strikes are. And again, the way I'm playing TLT is January 2027, so plenty of time to play out. But again, if it jumps, what is that, to 110? I think that's like a 25% move. It can 10x that. So it can 10x that, 11x that, based on the math that people get excited about bonds again. So that would be, for me, that would be like, I don't know, $1.7 to $1.9 million, maybe $2 million in additional gains from where I'm at right now, which would be some nice dip buying money if we do have a lull. But again, it's short-term pain for long-term gain. America is doing it right, and that's what we want, right? That's what we want. We want America to do it right. Real quickly, I wanted to show I did update the portfolio allocation. It's very different than the previous one. Yeah, glad that you sold Palantir at 117, right? I do think Palantir is probably finding a bottom, but yeah, it's at 81.45 right now, kind of grinding along. We'll look at that chart again later. But yeah, so I feel really confident with TLT. I keep saying this, but when you got some of the smartest people on the planet telling you that bond rates are too high and that they should be dropping because of the fundamental changes that we can see being made and the progress we can see being made with our government's debt, and creating a more sustainable path. And then at the same time, all the positive things from a tax standpoint that we're looking at, the $4.5 trillion tax extension, that's over a 10-year period, but that having that additional tax reduction, and then also at the, just everything that they're doing, the no tax on tips, all the things that we've talked about previously, and in depth and verbatim over and over and over again. But I think that all these things are going to be very positive. And so I think TLT is a great hedge if things get wonky. We do have 3 weeks, guys, until reciprocal tariffs. And reciprocal tariffs are going to be important. I think that's kind of max pain, or shortly after that is max pain. We could have additional conflict with China. China not doing so good. We'll look at some of those stats too. Even though their market is doing well, the underlying economy is not. And we'll look at some charts that tell us why that's the case. Again, people get irrational. People are investing in Germany. Germany is a fucking disaster. But like the European stocks are hot, China's hot, and they're all like in the worst shape out of everything. And the US is actually probably the one you want to invest in. Well, not probably. It is the one you want to invest in. But people don't get that. They don't care, and they're short-sighted. And that's all good. That's all good. We're not those people, or at least I'm not. They can have their ride. They can get their day in the sun. Everybody deserves one. Hopefully they know how to exit, and they listen for the musical chairs to stop. But I did want to say something real quick here. So again, I've leaned in. Friday, I leaned in hard. I sold a bunch of MSTR. I bought MSTX. Still got a ton of TLT. Mara calls. That's pretty much all of this right here. I might have a little bit of stock, but not a lot. ARCG. Again, I've just been adding to all these positions. CleanSpark. I'm adding to where they're further out, closer to end cycle. Just hedging my bets in case the short-term stuff doesn't play out. The calls for July, I want them to do well, but they're a $37 price target, and we're sitting at $8.52 in pre-market. So that might just end up turning to dust. You never know. BITX, again, large portions in there. Then a little bit of shitcoins. This has dropped in size. MSTU, I started to move into. IRA and MSTR, and again, I bought some Tesla stock. Or some TSLL, trying to get a 2x on Tesla. And I'm down, guys. So to be clear, I'm down 1.1 million in the last month. And I said, yes, the above drop is large, but I'm not one bit worried about it where I am right now and looking forward to what's coming for the remainder of the year. And again, these kind of drops right here, this happens. This happens. I didn't get to here without some of this. It just doesn't work that way. And if you're expecting that, I feel bad for you because that's not how life works. So yeah, I'm down about 40%, whatever that number is. But I wanted to put that in perspective, and I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Again, TLT, very happy about that play. I think that's a great hedge. And the investments I put that I'm dialing into are leveraged for upside price action and are winding up like a coil after a massive downside from their highs. So again, the shit coins I'm in down 85 to 95% from their highs. MSTX down 87.56. MSTU almost 81%. ARCG almost 80%. TSLL down 74+%. CleanSpark down 64. Mara 52.73. Iron 51.71. TLT 49.8. That's my hedge. And MicroStrategy 46.53, Tesla 46.5, BITX 42.82. These are down even lower today, even though we're almost at 84,000 on Bitcoin. So yeah, man. So just put it in perspective. My portfolio's like down here for the depths of the drop, and a lot of the stuff I'm invested in is much, much worse off. So anyway, so I just wanted to be clear on where I was at. I finally updated it. It took a month, but at least I got it out there. Let's jump real quickly back over to here because we got more U.S. economic stuff to talk about. So I did want to talk to my friend Jake. He does charting, and he's great at charting, but he doesn't necessarily spell out any nuance or anything that's going on in the world. And RH had a comment about this, and I thought it was a good one, and Eric jumped in too. But essentially saying, yeah, but you can compare it to this time frame over here just based upon charts and technicals. But is it the same? Are things different? And again, this is like the peak of 2021, right when we started to raise rates at the most aggressive rate in history. And then we had this really down period down to 2022, right? Which we'll look at the fear and greed in a second because we're at levels like down here. So even though the charts look like this, the real world of what's going on is more like down here. The fear and greed is down at levels that we haven't seen since the end of 2022. Let me just zoom in here. Down here, right? This is where the fear and greed is. It's at levels like that. And again, you can see it right over here. We had the second lowest level outside of August of 2024 that we've seen since October of 2022. So again, where we're at, not so much like this. I mean, the technicals might be here, but we look like we're here just based upon the fear and greed alone. But it's not even just about the fear and greed. Again, we raised rates at the most aggressive rate in history, which caused this pain. Right now, we're looking to do the exact opposite and lower rates at what could be one of the more aggressive rates in history. And we're using a forcing function to make that happen. So we could get maybe more downside price action. I think that's possible. If you listen to people like Michael Howell, He is fairly bearish right now over this first half of this year. I would say Cathie Wood is too. And again, people talk about global liquidity picking up, but our buddy Michael Howell points to he said the decomposition of systematic influences on BTC. So what influences Bitcoin's price action? And he said global liquidity actually makes up about 41% of that per his calculations. The gold price makes 25.9. If that's the case, we're sitting pretty good because gold's done all right. The gold BTC ratio makes up about 11.1%, which again is sitting good and positive for Bitcoin. And then it's investor risk appetite, which is very much near lows right now. So again, we've got Howell bearish for the first half of this year. Cathie Wood, I would say bearish for the first half of this year because they all realize that we're trying to accomplish the goals that Elon Musk is talking about and that Scott Bessent and so many others, right? And so 3 weeks of pain, I think, till tariffs. I think then we start to reach max pain or shortly thereafter. So I think things get a lot better after that. I do think Bitcoin, though, is oversold and should bounce. But we'll see what happens. Just be prepared. I got my hedge for a reason. I'm not looking to apply it anytime soon, even though TLT right now is up. Oh, where'd it go? I lost it. I just dropped it off my screen. Oh, hey, let me bring it back. I found it. TLT is up about 1.18% in pre-market. And again, this is a nice little consolidation. You can see where we actually rejected just a little bit above before it on the 200 monthly moving average. But guys, when we get above like the 94 level, and especially when we get above like the 98 level, it's going to be a real quick trip up here to like 109, 110. And that might be a good time to take some of those profits and really use it to buy the dip. And that's what my plan is to take a decent amount by then. Because again, if I get a 20% and I've made $1.5 million to $2 million off of TLT, I'm probably going to empty a decent chunk of that and look to buy any dips that need to be bought. So that's kind of the game plan with it. But I'm liking what I'm seeing in TLT, and I trust the brilliance of one of the most rich people on this planet to be a guide for what's coming. And again, the Fear and Greed Index, guys, again, October 2022 levels. The Crypto Fear and Greed Index, we actually hit the lowest level since July of 2022, which is also pretty low. These are not the times that you run away. They're the times that you start to get in and really get ready to make a bunch of money. Ooh, it looks like we have our National Economic Council advisor coming up in a second here. I'm going to refresh because I want to keep an eye on that. So when he comes back, I do want to jump to it. But so again, Jake could be right. We'll see what happens with this. But I do think that I wouldn't focus too much on this right now. I think that the real world is very different. And I wanted to show this. So massive U.S. imports of gold bars. Inbound shipments of precious metals dwarf longer run and average. Look at how much gold is being funneled into this country. I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant because everybody's dumping their gold here because they don't want to pay tariffs. So we're getting all of our gold back in this country, not just Fort Knox. I actually think the gold in Fort Knox is there. I trust Scott Bessent with that. But this is great. So Bitcoin News said the White House just declared America will be the Bitcoin superpower of the world. Meanwhile, an unprecedented amount of gold is flowing back into the U.S. Trump's golden age is built on hard money. 100% agree with that. This is exactly what we want. We want all the Bitcoin. We want all the gold. There's nothing wrong with this kind of environment. It's a good, positive thing. Jesse, MicroStrategy issued more preferred shares. Did they really? Let's go back here. Let's pull that up super fast. Sorry, I missed that here. Got to get better at looking at what you guys are talking about. All right. Saylor is down every Bitcoin purchase since November, but that didn't stop him. I fucking hate Jaguar Analytics. Let's go here. $20 billion offering. I'm trying to find like the good link. Here we go. Love it. Good job, Saylor. Got some MicroStrategy talk to go over too in our Bitcoin section, talking about how Satoshi Nakamoto actually predicted strategy bank. And that is the formula that MicroStrategy is running off of. So people, you can give Michael Saylor as much shit as you want, but I think it's beautiful what he's doing. Files with SEC for an offering of up to 21 billion. Holy shit. Wow. That's awesome. This team handles things so well. So well. We'll get back to that in a second. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, yeah, CPI and PPI. We'll see how they do. We'll see how they do. The bond market will definitely be influenced by it. But again, TLT is up 1.14% pre-market. Like to see it. That's amazing. $21 billion. That's some dip buying money. That's some dip buying money, guys. That's very exciting. Anyway, I want to keep going. So I put governments have been stealing our wealth at an ever-increasing pace since the 2008 great financial crisis 17 years ago. The USA is the only major economy trying to rectify this right now. So again, if we look here, the average American's purchasing power, so Infra says the average American's purchasing power has declined. And if you look at the chart, you'll see how he's dividing personal income by M2 money supply, basically showing that the money supply increases have not treated us well since all of this. And that and that personal income has actually been in decline the entire time. And so we've been losing purchasing power, which is very, very true, and something we need to focus on. Let's jump down here too. So again, TLT. Oh, I didn't mean to put this in here, but this is good to look at. So this just shows that we're readying a breakout. This is actually the T-bond futures 1 week CBOT. So Chicago Board of Exchange. But yeah, so this shows that it's nearing a breakout zone, and again, just more validation that we're looking at the potential for that going up. And since we know roughly that global M2 money supply is about 42% of the equation for Bitcoin, we can't expect something like this. But I think money velocity has to increase for that to really happen, and we need to see more money printing from China, which I think we will, which I'm excited about too. And let's keep going down here. So a bar chart said U.S. dollar is now used in nearly 50% of global payments, the highest level in more than 12 years, but BRICS. Again, this is just something, guys, where the RMB might have went up a little bit, but it ain't much. And the U.S. dollar, the euro is getting destroyed. But the U.S. dollar has climbed to levels that we haven't seen since 2012 or something, around the introduction, I believe, of, well, I don't even know. When did the euro come in? Anyway, a long time. So we're seeing more adoption of the U.S. dollar, and I think that that's only going to continue as the months and years go by, because again, stablecoins are going to help with that. Now it looks like we did get 1 second here. I want to go back. We did get Kevin Hassett, and I want to listen to what he has to say real quickly here. He is the mouthpiece for the markets, so we're going to listen. Or I should say, for the White House, for the markets.
They're doing half of what you think, and just do it.
Of what I actually think.
Half of what you think that you're not saying now. I want you to start like I did. What? Welcome back to Squawk Box.
All in trouble.
Join us now. National Economic. It's out there in the ether. Hey, Hassett.
Here we go. There's Kevin.
He is here today.
Hey,
Kevin Hassett. Tell us everything's going to be okay. Can you do that? Let's just start with that. Allay our fears, recession fears, inflation fears. The president acknowledged that maybe we have to wait a little bit, and that we're not a country that
TLT up 1.2%.
Its success completely on the stock market. That it could be, the heartland repopulating with great jobs. Is that your story?
Yeah, let's think about near term and then medium term. Near term, we've got a Biden economy that, still most of Biden policies are in place. If you look at the Atlanta Fed GDP now number, it's showing negative first quarter, which is kind of, if you like, a metric of the inheritance of President Biden.
Yeah, and again, that GDP now number, guys, you got to realize all the imports of golds and all the imports getting ahead of tariffs crush that number. They crush that number. They subtract from it. So just remember that the trade balance and massive amounts of imports take away from the GDP number. So it's artificially depressed.
A lot of that is also from a big increase in the trade deficit, which, as you know, and you've been covering, Joe, is happening in part because people are anxious about future tariffs, and so they're stockpiling. And so that's a very, very temporary phenomenon. I think that medium term, what you're seeing is the biggest tax cuts in history, a massive deregulation, a productivity boom from artificial intelligence, and tariffs, which even if you take the high-end estimates of the tariff revenue, they're going to be just a tiny fraction of the size of the tax cuts, which are almost surely going to be in place by the summer. So if you're thinking about like what's going to happen to capital formation in the U.S., if you take our cost of capital measures, it goes up 10, 11% over the next year. There are a lot of reasons to be extremely bullish about the economy going forward. But for sure, this quarter, there are some blips in the data, including the negative GDP Dow, which are related both to the Biden inheritance and to some timing effects that are happening ahead of tariffs.
This is brilliant, too. You want to take the pain, politically, you want to take the pain in the first quarter of your presidency, right? Like, there's no better time to do this than right now. Everything you want to get done, you do now. And you push the pain first, right? You push the pain first because you want the narrative, you want all the negativity out. So you want the tariff negativity out. You want the economy's rolling over narrative to be out. You want to push all that stuff immediately. And then you do the, hey, we got the tax cuts. Hey, we got this. Hey, this is happening. Hey, we got more business coming in. You want that order of events because, again, you want to crush bond yields and drop them significantly so that everybody can refinance. Just all the normal stuff.
The main criticism, I think, even among financial types of the Biden administration was the inflation. Even people that didn't like the Biden administration have to acknowledge that the jobs picture was strong through most of the Biden administration, and the GDP numbers were strong. Maybe it was Keynesian. Maybe there's something comes home to roost from all that spending. Maybe that's what you're talking about. But you don't consider any of the current possibility of a softening economy. You don't think it has to do with the uncertainty of you don't think Trump owns any of that? I think even someone that was right in the middle would not immediately attribute the soft. I'm seeing it on Twitter constantly. How's this guy doing now? How's that feel? How's winning feel with the economy? And they're not tying it to Biden, Kevin. They're tying it to some of the uncertainty from the Trump administration.
Well, let's be clear, though, Joe, that last year the Biden numbers, we kept getting these great jobs numbers, and then by the end of the year, we see that they're revised down by a whole million. And so a lot of the numbers that looked kind of good at the advance release weren't good in retrospect.
Well, they were still pretty good, and that was a technical thing.
No, even then.
That's bullshit.
Technical million jobs is more than a technical.
I don't know if Joe has been told that he needs to be more negative or if he's just doing it on his own, but he's definitely not an advocate for the Republican Party or the conservatives right now. He seems to be drifting away from that.
Thing. But the thing that I would say is that uncertainty, I have a paper that Matt Jensen and I wrote, we published a while ago, on the impact of uncertainty on the economy. And basically what happens is when there's a lot of uncertainty, people who have big projects, like you got to nail down a new factory or something, tend to wait for the uncertainty to be resolved.
Yep.
But what I'm seeing in the jobs number, for example, is that the uncertainty is actually creating jobs in the U.S. Right now, we just saw 10,000 manufacturing jobs created in the U.S., 9,000 auto jobs, and that's after losing 110,000 manufacturing last year. And so what's going on with the trade policy, which is a small fraction of the overall policy, is that it's starting to have the intended effect of onshoring activity in the U.S. Now, people talk about the prices. What about the price of this, the price of that? Don't forget that when you increase labor demand in the U.S., you increase wages. Do you think, Joe, that real wages are going to be higher a year from now after we have the tax cuts and some tariff policy and deregulation and AI? Are real wages going to be higher? Well, yes, of course they are.
Yes.
So therefore, the welfare of Americans will be better off.
You have to remember, too, guys, markets are forward-looking. So right now, they're seeing negativity because they're thinking out in very short terms. I think over the next month, 2 months, 3 months, towards tariff implications. But what Kevin's telling you right here is, hey, guys, the tariff revenues aren't going to be that high. We actually think that the reciprocal tariffs are going to pull down cost barriers between countries because countries won't want, like Canada, they won't want 240% tariffs against milk. You know what I mean? They won't want this because that's obviously what they were trying to incentivize, right? They were trying to incentivize the United States to buy their milk, which is why they put 240% tariffs on ours. So these things will create massive pressure for them to remove their tariffs. And again, China, there's this funny thing that happened over the weekend. There's 100% tariffs that were applied to Canada on a number of products over the weekend. I haven't heard peep from any of the new prime minister or previous Justin Trudeau or Canadians saying that they're going to, boycott Canada or China. I haven't heard anything, which is just hilarious. It just shows the double standards that exist. But again, the bad stuff's going to be get out of the way right now, and then it gets better. And you need to focus ahead. You need to have a long-term vision. If you don't have that, if you can't think out one quarter, you're pretty fucked in the investment world.
And real wages decline for 3 of the 4 years under Joe Biden. And so I'm very optimistic about the economy, but I'm also mindful of the GDP down number, which is a very, very temporary phenomenon.
So are you foreshadowing if there is a recession, it's going to be Biden's? You're going to call it Biden's recession? I think the Commerce Secretary said there won't.
China? Are we talking about Chinese tariffs with Canada? Well, let's just take a look. China tariffs, Canada. Oh, Canada. Why is Canada so vocal about Trump's reciprocal tariffs but silent about 100% tariff China just levied on Canadian pork and 25% tariff on Canadian beef? So, yeah, a little bit of both.
Won't be one. The president seemed to at least acknowledge the possibility that there could be some near-term, I don't know if you call it weakness, but there could be some near-term disruptions, I think he said, from some of the policies that...
I'd just be very wary, Joe, of conversations about recession or not, given that we had 2 negative quarters that used to be a recession under Biden, and then that wasn't a recession. I think that what's going to happen is the first quarter is going to squeak into the positive category, and then the second quarter is going to take off as everybody sees the...
So what is Kevin telling you? He's telling you that Q1 could squeak into positive territory and that Q2 will take off. I would focus on this.
Reality of the tax cuts. Like, everybody's talking again a lot about uncertainty. For sure, there is some...
This is all a part of the plan. Again, pain, short-term pain. They literally have told you. They've literally said numerous fucking times, there will be short-term pain. There will be short-term pain. Here's what we're trying to do. This administration is so much more clear on what they're trying to accomplish than the previous one. And yet people don't listen to it. It blows my fucking mind.
Uncertainty over exactly how the trade policy will work itself out, but the tax policy is almost... The
last administration was like obsidian, and we're like in diamond right now. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Sure to work the way people are describing it in the House and the Senate bills. The deregulation is already underway, and the drilling, baby drilling is going as well. And so there's a heck of a lot of uncertainty that's resolved. I think that in the end, the trade policy uncertainty is the one thing that people will see, and that is going to be resolved in early April, as President Trump has said. And so I think that we're pretty close to having the uncertainty behind us, and as you know, when that happens, then the economy really lifts off.
Yep.
Okay, so
totally.
the uncertainty, if we get that behind us 100%. In April...
And real quick, Dustin P11, the problem is people would rather be lied to. That way they don't have to participate in the truth. I think they're too lazy. I think people are too lazy for the truth. And I think a lot of people are news driven. And so they want to be like, hey, what market do today? Market go up. Market go up. They say market go up, guys. Market go up. Good stuff. Oh, hey, data looks good. We don't care if it's real data. We don't give a shit. Everybody was screaming the government data isn't real. And we're like, yeah, it's probably not real. But nobody cared, right? Nobody cared. They just they didn't care that it was revised by 1 million jobs later. They didn't give a fuck. They just like, lie to me, baby. I like it when you lie to me. Just tell me what I want to hear. And what people should actually want is like a better America that's more sustainable and that's on the right track when the rest of the world is just a giant money printer. This is what we should want. This is good for us. This is good for your accounts. This is going to make you a bunch of money. But if you want to be short-sighted, do the short-sighted thing. It'll be fun. Your emotions will just drag you back and forth every fucking day. Instead of being able to enjoy life and be happy that you know that your country's on the right track.
If it does bring some near-term pain or some near-term juggling or jostling that takes place, how long do you think that lasts, Kevin? Is this a situation where we have tariffs that kick in, they raise prices, and then it takes how long for us to adjust to it?
Here's the thing that a lot of people are saying that, Becky, but the way I like to think about it is, if you think about it this way, that the U.S. has a trade deficit of, about 1.2 trillion, and it's been very, very persistent. And so when you ask yourself, why is there a trade deficit that just keeps coming? Why is it that currency markets aren't adjusting so the trade deficit balances the way Adam Smith would say? Well, it's got to be because the supply of stuff sent to the U.S. is extremely inelastic. It's kind of like if you have an apple tree with 100 apples in it, and then you have a tariff, and then all of a sudden, people demand fewer apples. Well, the guy's got to sell 100 apples, right? And so he's going to have to eat the tariff. If he only sells 90 apples, 10 of them are going into the ground and rotting. And so I think that we've got very inelastic supply. That's why we've had these persistent trade deficits. And so the idea that American consumers are going to bear most of the tariff is just not economically literate, frankly.
It's not. It's really not. It's the producers that end up eating the fucking cost because they've got to sell it. They've got to sell it. In the manufacturing space, these guys are already, especially in China, they already are getting crushed. They're already getting crushed. Because again, the reason they were doing retaliatory tariffs against Canada is because Canada put them on them. It's such hypocrisy with Canada right now. But again, so China's been feeling the squeeze, and not just from them. Russia, again, 50+% tariffs on Chinese autos, and then also like furniture and just everything that they've been dumping. China has a massive amount of bandwidth for production and manufacturing in different areas where they've tried to squeeze the world. Auto being a great example of that. And the problem is that when these factories sit still, they bleed money. So they have to lower the price. They have to. And we can see that shit so fucking easy. If we just look, let's go over to China real quick here. If we just look at what happened with their prices, let's look here. So China had its second lowest monthly inflation read since the great financial crisis. This is not a great sign for the second largest economy on earth that's being forced to print tons of money just to try and survive. So what I'm putting in here, and this is before tariffs, guys, before a massive increase or right around the time of the increase, China is hurting. Their local economy is starting to see inflation rolling over. Again, this is China inflation rate. This is the last time, outside of 1 month right here, this is the last time that we saw levels like this, the great financial crisis. So China is receiving massive pressure. These manufacturers are receiving massive pressure to lower prices to keep sales going. It's not going to just all translate over to the consumer. It's China that will eat the majority of this. And if you don't believe me, look at the last time that Trump did this in 2016 and the $300-400 billion that have come in revenues that they've had to eat, that they haven't really done a good job passing over. This is what's happening. I hope people take the time to realize it.
And it's got to be the only explanation for the persistent trade deficit is that we've got lots of inelastic supply. And so if we put a tariff on foreign countries, then their capital and their workers, they're going to bear a good chunk of that tariff. And I think that then what we're doing is we're changing the tax code so that we're lowering taxes on the taxes that Americans bear and increasing taxes on the taxes that foreign inelastic supply bears. And that's very bullish for America.
Yes.
Kevin, that's certainly what happened with the tariffs on China that were put in the last Trump administration. It was not passed directly onto the consumer.
Thank you.
But much of that was picked up by manufacturing in China. But most economists think that there is a limit to how much can be absorbed before it does come back and really bite the consumer too. Where do you think those limits are? What's a reasonable amount before you think, okay, they can't absorb anymore and they would raise prices?
Well, don't forget there's a huge amount of trade, almost $1 trillion of imports between Canada and Mexico. And one of the things that we talked about from the beginning and then did after we saw some progress on fentanyl is exclude the quote-unquote USMCA stuff. USMCA stuff is 50-60% of all the trade in Canada and Mexico. And to get something qualified as a USMCA good, you just have to have U.S. content. So if there's, U.S. parts that get shipped over to Mexico and then they assemble them into a car, that if you put a tariff on that, then a lot of the tariff is on U.S. parts. That doesn't make sense, and that's why the exemptions are there. And so I would expect that one of the things that's going to happen is that people are going to have lots of levers that they can pull, as the final tariffs are visible.
Yeah, and there's been so many people that have been pushing a false narrative about how destroyed the auto sector will be from having, these having to go back and forth between these countries. But again, there's exemptions that will help them and that will benefit them because of the fact that they have American parts on them. So there's a lot of misinformation in regard to the tariffs, guys. A lot of fear mongering, pretty much normal stuff. People take things at face value and they put no effort into trying to understand the truth.
And one of them is having more U.S. content. If you have more U.S. content, that'll be quite helpful. In the end, don't forget too, trade isn't the majority of the economy. It's a fraction of the economy. And if there's a little bit of change in the price of things, then you have to say, well, is that also going to affect wages? And as again, we saw big increase in manufacturing employment in February, which should increase the real wage. And so I think in the end, it's got to be, even with a tariff policy, a prudent tariff policy, that real wages are up a year from now.
Yes, I agree.
It might not be, trade is not everything, obviously, but it is something on the margin. And we do keep hearing again and again, you have to acknowledge this, Kevin, that uncertainty causes CEOs and decision makers when they're thinking about new projects.
Oh no, the CEOs and decision makers are going to have a month where they pause. Oh no. Oh no.
Or deploying capital, or where to build something, or when to build something. And Andrew has pointed out the merger and acquisition activity they thought would be a big benefit from the deregulation.
TLT is up 1.32% today. If this thing keeps going up, I might actually start having to apply a little bit of capital. But I'm going to take it slow.
That we're seeing with the FTC or whatever, you're not seeing that, and you are. It seems that you're seeing some hesitation by corporate decision makers to embark on big projects or capital deployment just because of the uncertainty. Will you acknowledge that?
Exactly. Oh, exactly, Joe. And again, I have a paper that's about 10 years old where I wrote a lot about this. What happens is if you have a big, what we call in economics, irreversible project, a thing where you nail it down and then it's not like a used car that you can sell right away, then when there's a big election, then people tend to wait until both after the election happens, which would be November, but also into March or so, where they wait to see is Congress going to be able to function. And in that time period, big irreversible investments tend to slow down. Right. In fact, in the paper that I wrote with Matt Jensen a while ago, I guess this one was with Joe Sullivan, that we found that the relative odds of recession were about double around an election year because people were holding off on the big projects. And so you could think that there's like a tariff effect on that, but really there's an election effect on that Americans have experienced over and over and over again for every election. So and the Kevin, good news is that election uncertainty usually gets resolved around March, which is about where we are.
That's what I was going to say, though. Kevin, in terms of looking at the numbers, looking at a calendar, between the tariff piece we're talking about in April, between what you're talking about, this sort of investment theory about uncertainty and the like, when would it show up in the numbers? When, I mean, to the extent that you have to plead patience with the American public to say, look, this is all going to work out, but it's going to take a little bit of time.
I think he's kind of already
the president's saying that there's a sort of a temporary period here. When do you think we'd be on the set having this conversation, and either the markets would look different as a result of this, or the sort of spirits in terms of around the economy would feel different?
I think there's some things that already you're seeing are moving in exactly the right direction. So if you look at what's happened to the 10-year rate, I think that all the spending that we put into
getting ready to drop under the 200 monthly.
Plus, the Doge spending cuts are going to be on top of that. That's put a lot of downward pressure on interest rates. That's making it easier to buy a car, easier to buy a house. That kind of stuff is being resolved already. I think that the idea about when or how much do people have to move stuff from this country to that country, that's the stuff that I expect will be resolved and visible in April. But the uncertainty over that is already visible in the numbers. That's what I'm saying. So imagine we made 9,000 auto jobs in February, even though there aren't any auto tariffs, new auto tariffs in yet. That's because people are onshoring production, which bids up the wage and makes the welfare of Americans better, just as President Trump said.
It's going to be so much better.
I think you had a really a great Freudian slip there. You said, if you look at all the spending that we put into the reconciliation package, you meant spending cuts?
Spending cuts, yeah, that's right. Spending cuts.
You left out. That was so
I spelled the word cut, yeah.
Because Massey thinks it's spending. He's going. Yeah, Kevin admitted it. He's nodding.
That's $2.5 trillion. It's $2.5 trillion in cuts.
$2.5 trillion in cuts. All right, Mr. Hassett, don't be a stranger.
Of course, good to be here.
Because the other side's gonna hit in a vacuum.
We don't give a shit about the other side. All right, let's keep going. So again, I think a lot of this is very bullish, and I think it's coming very soon. Somebody said Trump coin up. That's great. It's been down a lot, so that's great to hear. Up 6%, it looks like, on the last 24 hours. Amit said, today seems like a great day to buy BTC proxies. No, I think it probably is. I think it is. I mean, if we look, I hate to bring this from up here. Let me actually just pull over I'll pull over MicroStrategy for now, and then we'll look at it up over here. Maybe we can run through some charts real quick before we go into more. But yeah, so MicroStrategy here, if you look, it's right here on the morning. So it is down. Let's see where we at. It is down 50% from where its high was just in November of 2024. So that's a lot, over a little over a quarter, or right around a quarter, a little over. That's a pretty big drop. So this would be a good time to buy something like that. BITX is also that way too. And if we look at Bitcoin, I would actually just make a quick argument that Bitcoin is very much at a key support zone. So if we look over here, and again, there's a lot of stuff on this chart. I apologize. Let's actually switch this to like the weekly time frame. So if we look at the weekly on Bitcoin, maybe right about there. So you can see again this time frame going all the way back to 2021, and right when this is 2021 when the Fed raised rates at the most aggressive rate in history. This over here is like right at the beginning of 2021. So you can see this trend line here where we back tested it, and maybe it goes just a hair lower. It all depends on where you draw it here, but essentially, let's put it right about there, and then maybe draw it down just a little bit further. Right about there. Yeah, so it could drop further. So again, but we have this really strong support zone over here, and it can drop still. Like, let me bring it down to where it's at. So we could get like a 6% drop all the way to like a 19-20% drop from where we're at. But I do think it's a great buy zone. I don't think you have to be terribly aggressive with it, though. I think you could just let this happen. Again, if we look over here, we can see where there's a support zone throughout this. If you look at the daily time frame, it looks a little clearer. Right through here, you can see how there's the support zone that's kind of been built up. You know, touch point, touch point, touch point, touch point, touch point, continuing. And if we wick underneath of this, I think that the BTC proxies are going to be a really good buy, and something that you should check out. But I do think, again, they're just incredibly beat up, and I think you're not going to care. When you look, we should actually, let's do this. I want to jump to the Bitcoin section. Let me see if there's anything. I want to go through little more on the U.S. economy, and then I want to jump over. So the dollar, not dying, only going to get stronger. Stablecoins help that. We're going to talk about stablecoins in a second. Ryan Detrick said since 1990, the S&P 500 is up 9.8% on average per year. That drops to negative 12.5% if you miss that best 10 days of the year. So that same premise that exists for Bitcoin, where in 10 days of the year you can make 90% of your gains, especially during the bull market, exists here as well. And so you don't want to miss the 10 best days of the year. So he said the best days of the year tend to happen in clusters around the worst days. So right about now, right? We know that we've had some of the worst fear and greed readouts since 2022, and for crypto since middle of 2022, but end of 2022. When we really jumped out of our bear and everything started to take off, that's when Meta was down 75%. That's when Tesla was down 75%. That's when Palantir was down even more. That's all these things were just fucked, including Robinhood and everything else, right? And a lot of them have done really well and climbed out of it. But you don't want to miss these days. You don't want to sell at the bottom of patterns where the fear and greed looks the worst it's looked in years, and at the bottom of a bear market. And I will call 2020, the end of 2022 was a recession. It was a recession for tech, for sure. You don't have 75% drops in Meta or Tesla if you didn't enter a recession in the tech sector. It definitely existed. And so, again, don't miss the 10 best days because you get scared. That's just going to fuck you, I'm telling you. So I did want to talk to this. So I posted my balance and then invest in the future. Said, honest question, if there's so much demand for BTC from ETFs, funds, countries, companies, retail, then how is the price stuck and declining? Thank you. And so I tried to answer this as quickly and intelligently as I could. I said, that's a long one. I go, but for instance, Coinbase, knowing they would have huge institutional demand since they were managing all the upcoming ETFs, 90% of them at the end of 2023, bought up tons of Bitcoin heading into the ETF launch. This allowed them to sell down their OTC desk. Basically, all the Bitcoin they had on hand, they could just sell that down while they picked up larger blocks from people at discounted prices. While buying for others without having to fluctuate the price much. So again, they didn't have to worry. They wanted to make it to where new ETF purchasers didn't get fucked and have the price run up right away and then not get in, and then they jump in and then the price drops. That leaves a bad taste in their mouth. So they wanted ETF purchasers to be able to have plenty of time to get in, and then be able to benefit later on. And I think that's exactly what they've done. I said there's a lot of companies that were naked shorting. This is another reason. There's a lot of companies that were naked shorting Bitcoin miners, putting downward pressure on them. They also suppress the underlying because people will normally take profits from their multipliers and then they'll put them into Bitcoin as the price goes up. That's what I do. That's what a lot of the big players do too. So this put downward pressure on Bitcoin. And then MicroStrategy, starting a few months ago, people have been shorting the shit out of that. I think even Ben Workman, no, it wasn't Ben. It was somebody. Somebody was doing that where they were shorting the price because it had overextended, and then they were making a bunch of money off of it. But this created more downward pressure too, because again, you're not making a bunch of money off of MicroStrategy and then rolling that into Bitcoin. So I would say that suppressed the price. So you have all these different reasons for why it was happening, and then I put. That said, we're seeing now is more about a slowdown in the velocity of money due to tariffs and layoffs, and velocity of money, and again. The velocity of money isn't picking up because people have, we're at this moment of what's going to happen, and I'm not going to commit capital unless I understand what's going to happen, and that's perfectly normal. And so, and also too, tariffs. Layoffs. I'm not quite sure where I put that in there, but you have to realize too, we're getting rid of all these people. That are here illegally, and so we're creating this deflationary aspect. We're creating this narrative that we could have issues with growth and all this stuff, and so that's slowing down our economy, or at least our markets, more because again, people are like, oh, why invest in America? China's got the money printer. Look at Germany. Germany's going to go deep into debt just so that they can start World War III, and so they'd rather invest in that because again, short-sightedness, or just know that number go up. And I don't think that's the right way to play it. But I said, note, everyone is talking about how M2 money supply has expanded, but that's only one metric. If this money doesn't get put into action, velocity of money, then it doesn't do much for inflating asset prices. And so we're seeing initially that we're seeing people speculating on the fact that Germany and China are the places to be for that in the near-term future. And they're not focused on the United States right now. They want to make their money there and then probably transition over to here, or at least that's what will end up happening. And I said, but I do believe that there's a lot of hope ahead in the next 4 to 8 weeks, I guess 3 to 7 really now. After the reciprocal tariffs take effect, max pain, that's when we're going to have max pain, and we start seeing some countries lower trade barriers to avoid increased tariffs. They'll lower trade barriers, or they'll move manufacturing to the United States, or move sourcing to the United States in order to be able to lessen the impact. And these are all good for us, as well as more positive news coming out of Washington in regard to lower tax environment, reduced federal spending that they're looking to pass soon. I go, this clarity will be positive for markets as they hate uncertainty, and that will increase spending and get money moving, especially around the world where governments are not doing the same kind of proactive spending cuts to make their countries more sustainable. Because if they aren't fixing the problems, they have to inflate their money supply and hurt the people in their countries, and even more. That the only compounds the problem, repeating the same downward cycle. So that's what these other countries are in. They're in the we're just going to fuck our constituents. We're going to fuck our companies. We're going to raise taxes. We're going to continue to print money. That is most of Europe, and that is what's happening in China too. As far as the money printer, and and they don't raise taxes so much in China. It's different. They just fine the shit out of people for stupid things. And destroy their livelihoods. And I said, important, markets are forward-looking, which is why it's hard to time them perfectly, but I strongly believe we'll see a turnaround in the time frame listed above as we start to realize that the USA has their shit together, and that ever-growing list of positive is only helping our case. We are the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry, and the world is about to get a reminder of that. So again, I just want to reflect that this is what's happening. This is what's happening, and it's important to know it, and they're telegraphing it to you. It's so simple to see. Let me see here. Sean, doesn't matter what price you buy Bitcoin is going to go over $1 million a coin. Yeah, totally. BGZ, Tom Lee mentioned gold outperformed the SPY the last 5 to 6 years. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, and most of that being over the shorter term. But again, it's hard money, and when you print a bunch of money, 40% of the money supply in the last 5 years that's ever existed in the country's history, you're going to see hard money outperform. And Bitcoin outperformed gold. So, and it'll get there. Again, we're getting ready to do that next round. Akash, good morning. Daylight time change? Question. Kamawa, Jesse, what are your thoughts on the BTC funding rates? The last time funding flipped this negative on Bitcoin was the March 2023 banking crisis. What are your thoughts on the BTC funding rates? The last time funding flipped this negative on Bitcoin was the March 2023 bank. I think that's good. I mean, I think that's good, right? That's good. That's good. That's what we want. We want the markets to be super fucking scared so that we make a bunch of money. That's what we want. That's all I can say, really. And I'm probably going to buy, I don't know, I'm probably going to buy BITX today. That one is down 8.81%. Actually, it looks like it's rebounding with this move in Bitcoin. So we'll see what I end up buying. Thanks to President Trump's fair and reciprocal trade plan, the American worker will be valued and rewarded. This is what America First looks like. So again, this guy is way more important, in my opinion, than Jerome Powell right now, and I just want to listen to Scott and what he has to say.
Look, it's not linear. It's an organic process, but if we were to look back to a similar process over President Trump's talked about it in his first administration. He talked about it in the campaign trail. He's talked about it since November, is the need for Europeans to fund their own defense. And you just had a very long conversation with Pascas, and that all of a sudden, voila, this week, after 25 years of baiting and cajoling, President Trump achieved what 5 other presidents couldn't achieve. The Europeans are going to up their defense spending. The German debt brake is coming off. That was not a linear process. That was not always an attractive process. But now the Europeans say that they are going to pay their fair share.
I mean, which again works out for all of us. It doesn't help their economy and it increases the money printer. Tim said, did you watch Tom Lee's podcast on the compound? Yeah, those guys are a little dumb sometimes, but they do provide some value too. It's not always directly in what they're saying, but maybe perception of what they believe and what a lot of market participants believe that are like the CNBC watchers. So I think there's value in watching it. All right, let's keep going here. So again, everybody's talking about the M2 money supply taking off, but that's not all of it. So we can still see downside pressure. Right now, Tesla down almost to 250. U.S. is still like 70%. 70% of what? What number are we talking about? Law, what about NATO spending? Yeah. It's not 70%. It's less than that. But I do think that we're going to see a lot less of that, right? Like that's the whole point. The whole point is that we reduce our expenses and that we don't need to be the world police, that we do need to prepare for China because we want to make sure that we don't have to go to war with them. And we can't be focused on Israel and Gaza. We can't be focused on all this other stuff. We can support Israel if they try and take out Iran's nuclear facilities and try and take out the leadership over there. But we're not looking to enter in any other wars anytime soon. So they're going to need to make sure that they can handle themselves if that's what they have to do. And we're going to back out. Russia-Ukraine war, I don't know, maybe a month, 2 months. I think that we'll be in a peace talks, and that you got to realize Russia is trying to make headway in the Kursk region down in the southern part of Ukraine, where they're looking to cross the river. And I think they're going to make headway into that because Ukraine, without U.S. support, is not doing nearly as well. They just don't have some of the advanced weapon systems that they need in order to be able to fend off Russia. And so I think Russia is going to use this as an opportunity to make headway and ground. I think, though, that's really good pressure to be put on Zelensky to try and get this fucking war over. So I do think that that's going to come to an end soon enough. Chris is right. Your portfolio the next 3 months. I agree with this. Save cash for Anduril IPO. I think Anduril is going to do really good. And again, just in China imposes 100% tariffs on select Canadian imports. Crickets from Canada in regard to that. We already kind of saw that one. And again, I posted this. It actually got way more views than I thought it was going to. It's funny what triggers people and what doesn't. Almost 500,000 views on this one. I said, March inflation data is falling off a cliff per Truflation. What happens when the Fed realizes this? And it just shows that, again, December, January, we were up in the 3s. And then it shows February dropping even more. And then it shows March. February to March, we were actually in the 2.3 range per Truflation, but then we fell off a cliff. Truflation was ahead of the Fed by months and sometimes even up to a quarter in regard to real inflation data, both to the upside. They had a higher number to the upside versus the Fed, and they were early on that. And then also near the bottom, they were early on that. So I think it's very important. Like it's very important to realize this. And then my buddy Income Shark said they hate it. They hate that it's happening under Trump, and I'm like, yeah, they do. But this is important. There's a lot. Like, let's just look at it today here. So we're at 1.39%. We got a little bit of a bounce. But if we look at the composition of the inflation-related data, we can see food away from home dropping off a cliff. I think people are cutting back on that. Even though I'm a multimillionaire, I've been doing that too. I'm one of these cheap asses where I will cut back on expenses even though I'm rich, just because it's like, oh man, times are tough right now. I lost a bunch of money in the market, and even though I'm worth almost $4 million, I'm still going to cut back on costs. I think a lot of people are doing that, right? And we can see this food at home. Even we can see some of the costs coming down. Food and non-alcoholic beverages we can see coming down, but food away from home is the big one. And this makes up, what does this make up? 15.3% of the relative importance. Now, housing, it looks like other lodging is falling off a cliff right now. So like think Airbnbs and stuff like that are just plummeting. We did still see a tick up in rented dwellings, but again, these are numbers, guys, where it's like 0.3%. These were down near the zeros in the 1% range. So these are very low too. But owned dwellings is still higher than it should be, just because we haven't seen as much single family home building. So that's been slowing things down, but this makes up 23% of the relative importance. But again, overall, the trend is low. It's basically flat. Transport, we saw a massive rollover in gas costs, where we were sitting at about neutral territory or up 1.18%. But that's just been falling off a cliff since about, January 22nd, 24th, right over here. It's done nothing but go down, and is now at negative 7.3% for again, gasoline, other fuels, and motor oil. And public transport, vehicle purchases, all these things are rolling over. And this is about 20% of the inflation index. And then again, natural gas was really high for the winter, but it's falling off a cliff into negative territory. Utilities as a total has been dropping as well, from like 7% in January for utilities total down to 0.41%. So again, massive drops, guys. And then health, again, coming down. Household and daily items coming down, alcohol and tobacco coming down. All this stuff is rolling over. So I think it's very important to recognize that and recognize that that's going to help out the bond market quite a bit. And TLT will be a part of that. All right, I think that's enough that DXY downside. Kind of agree with this one. What would happen if the UK deported all illegal immigrants? Yeah, this is what we're doing. So let's just listen to this real quick here. No March cut. March cut is like now. That's not going to happen. So again, just to be clear, guys, let me pull up the CME real quick here and refresh. So March cut is in 9 days. There's a 3% probability, but I doubt. If anything, I think we just see an end of QT. But May, I think May is going to happen. Right now, it's sitting at about 42%. And between that number, I think that's very much something that we're going to see in the future. But I don't think a March cut. Real quickly, though, I want you guys to hear this. So this is like what would happen with the UK if they deported all the illegal immigrants. This is what's happening here in small fashion. We're not actually doing a massive level of immigration out of the country. We are getting the worst of the worst, and we're picking up anybody that's with them, but that's the main focus. But these are the positive impacts that happen when you start to pull out immigration from your country. Let's just listen.
So, what would the UK look like after deporting all illegal immigrants? The UK would free up 1.2 million jobs overnight, reducing unemployment by up to 5% and giving British workers more opportunities in industries like construction and hospitality. London would see a transformation, with over 250,000 housing units freed up, easing overcrowding and making it 15% easier for residents to access schools, hospitals and transport. The NHS would experience less strain, with an estimated £2 billion saved annually as fewer non-tax-paying individuals use free healthcare, and hospital waiting times could also be reduced by 30%. Wages in industries like construction and hospitality could rise by 10 to 15%, as businesses would need to offer fair pay to attract legal workers instead of relying on underpaid, off-the-books labor. Crime rates could decline by up to 25%, with fewer cases of illegal activities linked to undocumented migrants, leading to safer communities.
This is literally what we're doing. And these are the benefits that we're going to see from all of this. They're positive in nature. I hope people realize that. And what we'll do is we'll just end up automating more stuff. And also at the same time, we'll end up seeing an increase in wages and an increase of legal wages that will transition well into the economy too. Because again, if we don't have a bunch of people sitting on unemployment and jobs are plentiful and people can go get them wherever they want, and it's all going to be good stuff. It's all going to be good stuff, especially when we have an increasing amount of jobs that are going to be coming into the country too. And you guys know my take. I don't think we're going to export all the illegal immigrants. I think some of them will end up getting some kind of work program in order to be able to stay here. We just want to get rid of all the bad guys for sure. And then there'll be some that we probably end up keeping in order to be able to have them work in the manufacturing sector. Anyway, so I thought that was a good video. And I wanted to talk to this too. Declaration of Memes said, funny the activists only care about what the West is doing. So you see the carbon emissions. And right now, the carbon emissions tax in Canada is just fucking ridiculous. If you eliminated all of that, they wouldn't even notice the tariffs that are going on right now from the U.S., But look at this. So carbon emissions from China, look at how they've increased. India, look at how they've increased. Other countries, third world countries. And Europe and the US are going down because we're so focused on that. Like it fucking matters. Like it fucking matters when you have these other countries doing massive amounts. Yeah, anyway, I think that's good enough. That's good enough for the U.S. economy. I want to get to Bitcoin because I think that's going to be a really big one right now that we want to talk through. It's almost 8 o'clock. The market opens in 32 minutes. Let's get through this. So just in, Spain's second largest bank, BBVA, gets approval to launch Bitcoin trading and custody services. So again, all of our major banks now have the ability to custody Bitcoin. They're definitely going to be doing it. I saw SoFi, Anthony Noto, kind of indicating that they're going to do something like that too. More importantly, though, look at the stablecoin market. Tops $200 billion for the first time ever. The clear winners since President Trump won the U.S. election. This is good. So again, this helps with our bonds because it gets it to where these companies are buying our bonds or treasuries in order to be able to issue the stable coins, and that's something that will probably be a part of the legislation that goes through, probably increasing the amount that we want them to do in regard to this. And also, when you see these kind of numbers here, where they're just growing and we're seeing an increase, if you look over here, you can see the increase led to massive Bitcoin price up, even though right over here we got neutered because the Fed raised rates at the most aggressive rate in history. But it's good to see a steepening of stable coins because this is money that is waiting on the sidelines to get into the crypto market for the most part. And so that should treat us really well in the future. Also, Ollie put whales had bought over 22,000 Bitcoin in the last 72 hours. Again, we're going to be seeing a lot of inflows as we go lower. And Dylan LeClaire put HODL, BTC, holders of last resort. I put the pain is almost done. Don't break the line. And I really do believe that. I think that we could see a little more downside pressure, but I think we're winding up for upside over the next week. Because again, people are going to start getting excited and they're going to start, and maybe we see a little bit of a retracement when the reciprocals kick in because of fear. But I do think that we're making a bottoming pattern across the Bitcoin world and crypto world. And again, just looking over here, fear is at the same levels we saw during the COVID 2019 crash and the bottom in 2022. So this is Crypto Fear and Greed Index over the long term. And they're just saying, guys, and so I pointed out how we're at the lowest level since July of 2022. Roughly around the bottom of the Bitcoin markets. And that was literally like the bottom. And then also from the COVID pandemic. So if you're worried about levels like this, and again, some of this kind of counts too in 2021, but we're just not in that same time frame. The nuance matters. It's important to see that. Quentin put the U.S. officially created a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Meanwhile, there is more fear than during the collapse of FTX in the midst of the bear market. That's just funny as shit to me. And also very true. And I put, if you look at the 4-year halving cycle trend, you'll realize that 2026 is our down year. So 2025 has a ways to go yet. So again, 2014, 2018, 2022, 2026, these patterns are very clear. This is our down year because of the way the halving cycle works. This is our down year because of the halving cycle. This is our down year because of the halving cycle. 25 is red, but historically it should be green, and I would still agree that it will be green and that we will see a positive cycle of at least, 100%, maybe more upside from where we're at right now. And that would be a good number to see, getting to, 160, 170,000, 180,000. I think it'll be higher, but I'm trying to be, conservative in nature. And then here's Caleb. He said, I told you that Bitcoin wanted to, I told you that I wanted Bitcoin to have a daily close above 84,000 so that we could start to form a potential keyword bullish RSI divergence on daily candles. Today might finally be that day. We do actually have this divergence is still forming here. And so this, again, looks positive, and it looks like we're finding a bottom. Also, this is from Hal Finney, who I've said numerous times is Satoshi Nakamoto, and I want you to listen to this here, okay? He literally said what was happening with MicroStrategy. This is in December 30th of 2010, so we're climbing out of the great financial crisis and starting to see a recovery. He said, actually, there's a very good reason for Bitcoin-backed banks to exist, issuing their own digital cash currency redeemable for Bitcoins, so like a stablecoin type currency, right? Bitcoin itself cannot scale to have every single financial transaction in the world be broadcast to everyone. The math literally doesn't work. Even with the Lightning Network, I haven't found any math that works for this. Even though, again, we go like so many decimals over with this, the Satoshi, the individual unit of metric, it still isn't enough. And so we need to have banks. But so he said he said it can't handle every world or every transaction in the world be broadcast to everyone included on the blockchain. There needs to be a secondary level of payment systems, which is lighter weight and more efficient. Likewise, the time needed for Bitcoin transactions to finalize will be impractical for medium to large value purchases. Bitcoin-backed banks will solve these problems. They can work like banks did before nationalization of currency. Different banks can have different policies, some more aggressive, some conservative. Some would be fractional reserve, while others may be 100% Bitcoin-backed. Interest rates may vary. Cash from some banks may trade at a discount to that from others. George Selgin has worked out the theory of competitive free banking in detail, and he argues that such a system would be stable, inflation-resistant, and self-regulating. I believe this will be the ultimate fate of Bitcoin, to be the high-powered money that serves as a reserve currency for banks that issue their own digital cash. Most Bitcoin transactions will occur between banks to settle net transfers. Bitcoin transactions by private individuals will be as rare as well as Bitcoin-based purchases are today. I agree with this, and I think this is coming from Satoshi Nakamoto. And again, I think MicroStrategy saw this playbook, and that's why Michael Saylor is doing it. All right, that Martini guy said the total amount of money in crypto has never been higher, bullish. So again, total cap for USDT is higher than it's ever been, and that's bullish. We looked at that in the other screen. The Bitcoin historian said Australia Libertarian Party formally adds Bitcoin reserve to policy platform, the world's 14th largest economy. Bitcoin Archive said we have 33 U.S. states racing to pass Bitcoin strategic reserve bills. Europe is sleeping on Bitcoin. And then 25 alive SBR bills right now amongst 18 states, to be clear. Quentin said Bitcoin has never seen accumulation this aggressive in its entire history. I would say that's bullish. CleanSpark set to join the S&P Small Cap 600 index. That was really bullish. I think when Mara did it, I would assume it's going to be bullish with CleanSpark too. Adam Back, again, an OG cypherpunk back in the days of Satoshi Nakamoto, said people are undervaluing the U.S. Strategic Reserve announcement. It is huge for Bitcoin, or for moving the Overton window. The actual U.S. government promoting Bitcoin provides the new ultimate reference for sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, and mutual funds to add Bitcoin to allocations. And El Salvador has given the IMF the middle finger, buying another 5 Bitcoin the other day, increasing its stack to 6,111. These guys aren't messing around. It's brilliant. And again, federally regulated U.S. banks can now custody Bitcoin without requiring prior approval, Office of the Comptroller of Currency. So Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Citi, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and JP Morgan can now custody your Bitcoin. Marty Party said Bitcoin daily sitting on the 200 EMA. That's the exponential moving average. Longs piling in with liquidations down to 82,500. And again, all the lower liquidations have pretty much been filled, and everybody's scared to go long, which is good. We want that. We want negative funding rates. We want people to be scared to take out leverage to the upside. All right. And again, this is David Sachs. We got everything we wanted out of the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, guys. I don't know if people realize that, but we did. Okay, we did. And listen to David Sachs. This is what you want to hear out of somebody who is the crypto czar.
Remind the American public and investors why you need a Bitcoin reserve at all.
Well, good to be here. I mean, the reason why we need a Bitcoin reserve is that the federal government already owns some. In fact, it obtained around 400,000 Bitcoin over the past decade through criminal and civil forfeitures and seizures. And so the government has to have a strategy for how it deals with this. In the past, the strategy has been simply to sell it, in an ad hoc way, almost willy-nilly. And that cost American taxpayers something like $17 billion in lost value. So we want to have a long-term strategy to maximize the value of these holdings. And we've decided that Bitcoin is scarce, it's valuable, and that it's strategic for the United States to hold on to this as a long-term reserve asset. So that's the plan with the 200,000 Bitcoin that we believe are in the possession of the federal government. And I say we believe because no one really knows for sure because we never had a proper audit. So that's one of the first things that this executive order provides, that we're going to do a full government-wide audit to find out what digital assets we actually have so they can be safeguarded and moved into a strategy that maximizes their long-term value.
And he goes into more depth here in a little bit, too. We'll talk about that. But again, Belarusian President Lukashenko, oh my God, I don't know why I couldn't say his name. They have excess electricity. They've got cheap costs. They're looking to do Bitcoin mining. Coinbase CEO says a U.S. crypto reserve with only Bitcoin is the best option. And again, that's pretty much what we got. Texas new Bitcoin reserve bill just approved. Doesn't mandate direct Bitcoin purchases yet. It focuses on accepting Bitcoin for taxes, fees, and donations, holding them for at least 5 years to build out the reserve. Purchasing could come later if the states see fit. But again, so what we're seeing here, guys, and I think we're going to see this. This is very practical, and I think we're going to see this across other states and countries as well. They're going to start creating a reserve where they hold the Bitcoin and they don't let go of it. And again, these guys, if anybody pays taxes in it, if there's donations in it, if there's fees in it, confiscation of some kind, they're going to put it in the Bitcoin reserve. And I think that's brilliant and exactly what we should see happening. Mike, Jesse, the BTC reserve is in an executive order, right? We do need it. We do need to get through the Congress to be safe, don't we? Yeah, you want it to go through. You want it to go through and be something that comes through Congress as well, so that you can codify it. Yes, that's exactly right. But I don't see Republicans losing the presidency in the next 4 years. I really don't. I think we're going to see a massive boom in the United States, and I think we'll have plenty of time to do it, but I do think they're going to try and do it earlier. The Bitcoin historian breaking the White House just sent its first ever Bitcoin tweet. Last year, I promised to make make America the Bitcoin superpower of the world and the crypto capital of the planet, and we're taking historic action to deliver on that promise. And again, we want it to be focused on Bitcoin, guys. This is what we want. I don't know why this is in here. Let's see here. This is interesting, though. So Trump's new shipbuilding office will be a game changer. The naysayers claim we need massive dry docks that take years to build. Wrong. Here's the billion-dollar ship my team and I built in South Korea with just a parking lot and a floating pier and a crane barge. So this is important. It's going to be a lot easier to build ships than people realize. David Bailey says China is holding closed-door meetings with us, talking about a strategic reserve. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't know. There's a bunch more in here. But my whole point is, guys, I want to reiterate that the Bitcoin reserve is incredibly, incredibly positive, and that we're doing all of it right. And again, BTC is still in this pattern, guys, this cup and handle pattern with a slight upward twist. This is what we're looking at. This is what we're looking at right now for Bitcoin, and we're finding support on it, and it's a beautiful thing. Good morning. Did you change time? Didn't expect so early. I don't know. Did I not recognize the appropriate time? It says 8 o'clock where I'm at. Is that right? 8 o'clock. Oh, you know what? Are you guys in another part of the world? You guys are in another part of the world, right? Is that the thing? Not in the U.S.? Different time zones? So yeah, it's 8 o'clock where I'm at, and I started at 7, I believe. I think I did it at the right time. So again, daylight savings. Yeah. So we have daylight savings time and all this crap. Hopefully we'll do away with it sometime, but this is what happens. So I started at my normal time. It's just the time changed. All right, real quickly here. So again, I think so for Bitcoin economy, I think really good things are coming, and I think it's all very, very positive. And I just want to reiterate that. I'm going to probably take a bathroom break here. I do want to jump over though.
Holy tariff.
I want to go. We got about 20 minutes until the bell, and I want to go back here a little bit because I saw something that might be interesting. Yeah, they had a. All right, I might just go back a little bit. I'm going to let you guys listen to these guys for a little bit, and then they're going to have Howard Lutnick. This will give me time to use the restroom and get some coffee. So stick around, and I will be back in 2 seconons, okay? 1 second.
I noticed you gave him a shout out. Oh, well, it was so good. He said, look, because when people come on, and no offense to the people that I'm not going to mention the names, people like to hide behind the long term. I've seen this before. I remember that's what cowards do. You know what? I don't have to worry. I'm long term. Well, Frank came right back and said, well, even a long-term person might find stock worth buying low. And it was just kind of like, well, that sounds glib, but it wasn't. It was rigorous, because that's what a good person does. They look at what they like and they pick.
Right. I noticed he also amplified Leslie Picker's tweet this morning, looking at the view that many consensus longs on no news triggered risk management to kick in. That
right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. When people lose money, I don't mean be. I've lost money. I've been trading since 1979. I've lost money. I've made money. I can tell you when I lost money. When I lost money was when I decided, get out now. It's over. When I've made money is to take the other side of the trade, who was me, the get out now guy. This is no different. Except for the fact is, this was a belief in a president, and you now think he doesn't care about the averages, and that it's an all-new president. It's a populist president. It's William Jennings Bryan. Well, actually, we elected McKinley, not William Jennings Bryan. Right. And people ought to go read the two, because one is raise less corn, more hell, and the other one is gold standard, and let's keep things strong. The business. So, I mean, anyone who's decided that Trump is now anti-capitalist and just doesn't care except for his base, complete misread.
Well, I think I'll push back on one part of that. One might argue it's not the policy end game, it's the delivery of the evolution of this policy that is driving hesitation.
Yeah, I did a piece this Sunday which just said for club members. That's because that's a plug for the club, because what the hell else am I supposed to be doing?
All right,
one of the things I said was, okay, look, if he laid out the plan, and it's put
Did we get to Howard
20%
Lutnick?
on Germany and 20% watching.
It
was really.
Did we get to Howard Lutnick?
World, grow
All right, I want to hear this.
grow recession in.
She had died, but I wish she like that. And the stock was at 60, and I got a report from Goldman Sachs. I had sold it at 52, and it never traded lower than 50.
Are you guys worried because Jim Cramer is bullish? Yeah, that could be problematic. We'll see. I do see Tesla. Tesla's nearing its bottom. It's looking really good. On the weekly, we're almost at oversold on the RSI. We'll look at some RSIs today, too. We'll go into charts here right after this. Well, I do want to get through some Tesla news, and then we'll do that.
Forms so many of your picks, Jim, and your whole strategy. You do mention Lutnick. He was on Meet the Press. And he was more forceful than the president on pushing back on the notion of recession. Take a look.
Should Americans brace for?
Just remember, Howard Lutnick is the cheerleader. The president is like the bad guy, and then he's a cheerleader.
A recession.
Just like Kevin.
Absolutely not. There's going to be no recession in America. What there's going to be is global tariffs are going to come down because President Trump has said, you want to charge us 100%?
Oh, thanks,
We're
Rose.
going to charge you 100%. And you know what they say? They say, no, don't charge us 100%. We'll bring ours down. We'll unleash America out to the world, grow our economy in a way we've never grown before. You are going to see over the next 2 years the greatest set of growth coming from America as Americans. You saw it, 1.3 trillion of new investment coming in America. Think of all those jobs. And remember, each trillion of investment in America is 1% of growth GDP. So Donald Trump is bringing growth to America. I would never bet on recession. No chance.
Meantime, you got Carney now.
Yeah, he's definitely a cheerleader, but I love it though. I do think he's very much right. I think we're going to see massive amounts of investment in the United States, and that will be impactful on what happens with GDP growth. And again, like Kevin Hassett was saying, I think we're going to see really strong GDP growth for Q2. and people are going to turn around and they're going to get really optimistic again. Real quickly, so the only real data points that we have today, we've got some bill auctions, but really it's consumer inflation expectations. So we'll see what those do. They really are so dormant compared to where they were. Maybe we see some kind of uptick in this just because people are fearful of tariffs creating inflation, even though they shouldn't be. But it's a very boring number. Tuesday, we have JOLTS job openings data. That's going to be big. Business optimism's good. And then again, Wednesday, we'll get actual inflation data, CPI, all the important stuff. So we'll want to keep an eye on that. And then Thursday, PPI. So again, just to follow up from it, the producer prices, jobs data, jobless claims, all that kind of crap. And then Friday, we have Michigan data too. So it's going to be very interesting. Ooh, we got Eunice talking in China. I want to hear what they're saying here.
Hey guys, well, Chinese stock prices tumbled, and this is because investors have been bracing for more tariff uncertainty. Today, the tariffs, the 10 to 15% tariffs that China kicked into place are going into effect or are in effect. And these are on American farm and food products covering $22 billion worth of goods. China's countermeasures also included the suspension of American timber. So last year, American exporters shipped $850 million worth of timber to China last year. The focus here in China now is how this trade war could affect the Chinese economy. We heard some negative news over the weekend. The economy is still showing signs of weakness. The consumer prices for February dropped at its fastest pace in 13 months. This reversed an increase and also missed expectations.
Again, second lowest number since the great financial crisis 17 years ago. Seems like a big deal to me.
At the ongoing National People's Congress, policymakers have been indicating that they are looking to prepare for a trade war, especially when it comes to food. The authorities here raised the grain output target for the year, as well as the budget target for stockpiling it, and that suggests that the authorities here want to make sure that the country has enough food and that the food prices are stabilized. Now, meanwhile, Chinese exporters, as well as their U.S. counterparts, are trying to figure out who pays for all the tariffs. For example, I spoke to two suppliers who said that their customer, Walmart, has been putting more pressure on them to take on all the costs, and they've been telling
Ouch, China.
Me that it's just so difficult, if not impossible, for them to take on a now 20% tariff. They said this is on top of the Trump 1.0 tariffs, and then one of them, at least.
Again, these tariffs, Walmart is like, we're not passing this on to our consumer. You guys better figure out costs on your end.
Is eyeing on Wednesday the steel and aluminum tariffs, which would be coming in at 25%, and saying that all of this is just causing them a whole lot of whiplash. Guys?
Okay, so Eunice,
love you, Eunice.
If you don't want to play the game with Walmart, you lose your biggest customer. I've never seen anyone walk away from Walmart.
No,
it's just too big.
They can't.
I don't really care if somebody feels they aren't going to make as much money with Walmart as they'd like to. They can't walk away. Why do these people, these businesses, think they can walk away? Who do they have in their back pocket to make up for Walmart?
Nobody.
Right. So it depends on, of course, which company you're talking about. But everybody does, as you say, they want to keep the relationship with Walmart. This is a very important relationship. And some of them have said that they are willing to take a loss, to just keep going as long as they are able to retain this relationship. But, at some point, how long can you keep going? And I think that's the big question that a lot of them have right now as to whether or not they would be able to maintain these losses. They're looking for other ways, as you said, looking domestically. Of course, some issues here, looking at other markets, but it is really difficult to replace the U.S. market. At the same time, though, Jim, it's also difficult for U.S. companies to replace the supply chains here. Because a lot of U.S. companies that I speak to say that the supply chains are really good in China and that they've actually had trouble trying to.
Fair, but at the same time, though, we're incentivizing them to build in the United States, and companies that do make the transition, I'm sure there's ways. Again, they can depreciate the entire investment in the country in the first year and then carry that over for years. There's going to be a huge incentive at the very least. You might have a one-time cost increase because of what she's talking about. but there's going to be a huge incentive to change their supply chains to work better for the tariffs that are in place, to be able to account for reciprocals, or eliminate them altogether. Maybe China doesn't bend right away, but all that does is just force the companies there and other parts of the world to say, we should build something in the United States. And the incentive to do that from a tax perspective, from a cost perspective, is really, really, really positive.
To switch over to other countries. So, it goes both ways.
Very good, Ruben.
Yeah, that's a good one. We didn't even talk CPI, negative for the first time in 13 months in China. We'll save that for another hit. Eunice, thank you.
She did, actually. Eunice. You're a fucking idiot. She already said that. Anyway, but yeah, this is all stupid positive, in my opinion. It's very, very good stuff. Let's see here what else we got. We got, I didn't even know this. So I didn't know that the Cybertrucks and the S and the X had 150,000 miles on their warranty. I just never paid attention. I also didn't realize that like the rear wheel drives are only 100,000 in 8 years, but the nicer versions of the cars are 120,000 miles, and the really nice version, the S, the X, and the Cybertruck, are actually 150,000 miles. That blew my mind. So I figured I'd pass that on because I don't even know that. And then I wanted to mention that, all the Tesla killers, because they're everywhere, right? So we got hydrogen. I forgot hydrogen was a Tesla killer. Now watch out, guys. They are growing a lot, okay? They saw 3 vehicles in Germany for hydrogen. There was a BMW and then 2 Toyota Mirais. So it's taken off. So watch out. People love getting fuel. They love having a small bomb in their vehicle. And this is very exciting. So I think hydrogen's coming back. Also, to the other Tesla killers, we've got the Volkswagen ID. So we've got a Tesla showing you what it sees and its UI, and then we've got the Volkswagen ID, guys. I think these are really becoming popular again. If you guys ever used like Garmin Maps back in the day, or like a really old like MapQuest, did you guys ever print off your maps? This shit's coming back and going to do really well. So watch out. Tesla's going to get hit really hard by that. It says Democrats are now trying to convince people that SpaceX is a failure. They will lie about anything to maintain power. And guys, we've got Alyssa Milano has left X, even though she said that she should not leave X because that would be seceding ground to these crazy far-right people. And so she also sold her Tesla and bought a Volkswagen because she thinks that it's just a much better vehicle, and she likes the heritage behind it. And she thinks Elon Musk is a Nazi, but he's a wannabe Nazi, and she wants the real Nazis. So she's made that change. Good for her. The Volkswagen ID4 is a scam, it says. I can't believe people buy these. The navigation map is worse than the first generation Google Maps. Look at this little like UI here, and then look at this over here. It's just, again, all these Tesla killers. Watch out. And then Kia got some bad press. I put that we should cut them off from the supercharger network. That was actually pretty popular, it looks like. But I don't know that really needs to happen because this is one branch. It's the Norway branch of it. They put, I bought this after Elon went crazy. I think that's a dumb idea to use that as a marketing concept when you can't keep up. Elon put Costas committing crimes. Far left activists behind the so-called Tesla takedown, fueling a spree of vandalism and nationwide, proudly admits her campaign draws inspiration from Luigi Mangione. Let's just listen to this real quick here.
Val, maybe we could start off with a little bit.
These are the nutcases that are going after Elon.
Can you just actually tell us what Tesla takedown is?
Yeah.
It's not takedown Tesla.
Is that an actual girl or is that a transgender person? It's hard as hell.
That's Tesla takedown.
Tesla takedown. Yeah, there's a website called teslatakedown.com, which is a website you can go to, get some background on the campaign. And it essentially is a map where anybody in the world can put an action up for targeting Tesla. And so I've been involved in that campaign, and in particular, planning actions in the Seattle area targeting Tesla.
In Tesla takedown, there's a spirit out there, which had already, as we saw with Luigi Mangione,
Yeah, sorry, I don't keep up with the 30 different kinds of genders that the left likes to push. I have a hard enough time just understanding what my daughter's talking about. She turned 11 she turned 11 this last week, but we had her birthday party yesterday. And I can't even, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to understand.
There's a spirit which is very anti-corporate, very anti-billionaire, very anti sort of elite. And Tesla takedown is also tapping into some of that spirit as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so we don't have to listen to this dumb cunt, but she's committing crimes and she's openly admitting it on YouTube, and I think that's great. And I drove by a protest, guys. There's a protest in my town down at the courthouse, and I was just driving along, and I saw some guys like wave at me, and I thought they were gonna like give me the middle finger. They were waving at me because I was getting ready to drive up on this protest, and then they were like, "Yeah, dude, go get them." And they started smiling and laughing, and I was like, I didn't know what this is about. So I got my daughter and her friend, her bestie Harper, in the back seat, and we're driving along, and I see all these protesters like with hate Elon Musk, and they're like booing the truck. So I honked the horn a bunch of times and kind of did a model wave to them, and the kids were waving at him. Seemed to piss him off really good. But again, we had this protest. What was that, Saturday, I want to say? There was this big protest Saturday around, like that was their big day. And then after that, there's nothing. There's crickets. So it's been super quiet. So they got like 1 day of protest, and that's it. But look at this. I wanted to show this too. So again, I think a lot of this stuff is going to go away. They're just going to give up because they have no ground to win here. But look at this. I want to put this really low here. Just look at how this Tesla can maneuver through this small road in China in the middle of nowhere without good mapping systems. Like, look at it. It just shows single lane. There's nothing really here to work with. It's just a small rural town like a lot of China. And it's poor. It's dirty. The roads barely exist. Look at the mess and the clusterfuck that this thing is going through. And yet it has no problem maneuvering through it and manages the whole thing. I think that the Chinese market has overwhelmingly said that Tesla is the best. And it looks like, I don't know, DJ Daniel, I don't know if they ended up giving him a Cybertruck, but I think there's supposedly going to give him a Cybertruck, his family. I think that's brilliant. And Nick Cruz, Tesla is the cheapest vehicle to maintain over a 10-year ownership. They put a Range Rover in here too, and it was like way over to here. But again, which one would you rather own, a Tesla or any of these other cars that cost you a bunch of money? It's going to be the Tesla, guys. It just is. And supercharger growth. Somebody's like, oh, we should just boycott Tesla superchargers because I made that comment about the Kias and just kicking them off. And it's like, oh yeah, dipshit. People are just going to boycott the Tesla superchargers. I mean, look at this growth. It's ridiculous. So again, the fundamentals do matter. And I got French women will do anything to show off their tits. And so this is them talking about Elon being a fascist. Let's see if I get censored for this. Some ugly bitches too, I gotta say. One second.
Hi, Vladimir Putin! Hi, Vladimir Putin!
And then they do Elon Musk and all this other stuff. Oh, just some of the ugliest women I've ever seen. Anyway, so again, this is just all noise. It's just all noise and garbage. What matters is the great vehicles. What matters is the semi-factory coming online. What matters is, yeah, oh, dude, just the ugliest. Yeah, the armpit hair. You got to have armpit hair too. Ugh. Just makes me a little sick. But yeah. But ignore all the noise. It's the mega pack factories coming online. It's the fact that the Chinese like Tesla full self-driving better than they do the stuff in their own country. It's the fact that the Tesla Cybercab is going to be coming out en masse, and we're going to have this in Texas and California, giving people free rides. What matters is the reality of all this, not the 1 day of protest they're able to muster. None of that matters. It just doesn't matter. Not the banning of X, not the getting rid of Starlink, not the everybody talking shit about Tesla. None of that matters. It's all garbage. It's all garbage. Just think about long-term what's happening with Tesla, and that's all that matters. Real quickly, speaking of that, let's jump over to Tesla real quick and look at the chart. And I did buy, so I don't have any calls anymore on Tesla. I don't have stock on Tesla, but I did buy TSLL, and I did that last week kind of because of this. If you just look here real quick, if we just ignore the weekly RSI, and again, the RSI is probably going to print, it's in the 30s right now, and it's getting lower. But we do have this kind of divergence higher in the RSI. And if we look at the daily, though, I mean, it's in oversold territory. The most it's been really since like January of 2024. So this is a 14-month, 15-month almost low in what we've seen for this level. And that's really like, I mean, there was one brief period over here in 2023. But outside of that, this is like the third deepest low since January 2023. So over 2 years ago. So these are the times where you should get interested and you should look at buying I'm going to kill this. I don't actually think that's very helpful right now because we've already seen that divergence downward. But yeah, so we've got some, despite, and I'll just move this over here on the daily time frame, despite the downward move that we have made from a technical standpoint, we do have a bullish divergence that started right about in January, the beginning of January. So this thing's been going on January, February, into March, so about 2.5 months, about 10 weeks. Oh, we got ding, 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 ding. Let me get back. We'll go back.
If we can.
And what in the end mattered, just so people know, he had all these things, but what mattered was he just said, "No, Jim, get on board," and he was like that. I loved him.
8x premium.
One of the great calls of all time.
That's a lot.
Let's get
Are you sure?
Bell here in the CNBC Real-Time Exchange of the big board.
Thought it was better than that.
Executives and guests of Ireland Day, commemorating Irish business interests in the U.S. St. Paddy's Day.
All right, nice. We got the bell. So we'll go over and look at that. But again, right now we're seeing Tesla down at this range over here. And I just wanted to show this. We're seeing down at this support range. If I draw this out and then look over here, look at the volume peak here and where we're sitting. We're right above it. We could drop lower. We could end up closing this gap around the 218 range. Or not a gap. I'm sorry. We closed this gap over here. We do have a little one that goes down. Yeah, about 218, 219 right over here in this corner. I'm going to get rid of this other one, though, because that doesn't need to be there. So we could close this other gap right over here, and that would be a perfect bottom. So if we get down to the 220, 218 range, I'm probably going, I won't say balls deep, but I'm probably going pretty deep into Tesla. I'll probably at least have a decent six-figure position, maybe $150,000, $200,000 in Tesla or TSLL, because that would be a 55% drop from what we just saw at the end of December, which is just crazy to think of. Not even one quarter, guys. About 10 weeks and a 55% drop. So if we keep going, we're down to 250 right now. If we can get down into this zone, I am totally buying. And I actually probably really quick here need to move and just get myself an alert. So it's this gap right around here. The 220s is where I'll be alerted, and I will let you guys know if I end up buying. Let's look at the full watch list, though. Since we just had everything taken off, let's sort here and see what's getting the most damage. MSTU and MSTX. So we're seeing about another 10% or something, a drop on these. It's a little more than that. It looks like 16, 17% in pre-market. So this needs some updating. It'll probably happen pretty soon. Oh, there we go. It's starting to update. So MSTX getting hit the most. It might actually end up buying more of this today, or at least MSTU, and rolling that over. I actually think I'm going to do that real quick now on one of my accounts. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to move over like 27,000 real fast. Just give me a second here. Sell. I don't want to sell too much, or maybe any TLT today, but I don't mind stepping into one of these other funds. So let me see, MSTU. Let me see what we have here. I'm just going to do like, is it 1,000, or how much can I get? 5,000? 5,000 should be right. 1 sec. I'm just going to get this order in. Again, I just want to maybe I'll do 5,100. All right. Just want to get this in here because it doesn't hurt. Let's see, 5,300. Trying to do math quickly in my head. Sorry. Nope, too much. Okay, 5,250. 5,250. All right, so I'm just going to buy some MSTU real quick down on the day. Would get MSTX, but I already have plenty, and I'm trying to just, again, I like to diversify my risk. So I've done that. I made a trade where I got rid of MSTR, and I turned it into MSTU. And again, it looks like MSTX is getting wrecked, down 17% on the day. So I'll probably end up maybe doing some more of this today. Actually, I'll probably take the conservative route and go after MS or BITX if I end up selling any of my TLT. I'm just going to check other accounts too and see if there's anything else I want to liquidate to get to that. Let's see, TLT. Off your total MSTR investment, what percentage in stock versus leverage? You could see it if we're over here real quickly in my portfolio. I just updated this yesterday. So it reflects that. But if you look over here, you can see again. So MSTR, I don't have any calls whatsoever. And I just liquidated a little more of that and put it into MSTU, probably like another 1% or 2. So I've still got more of that I can liquidate and put over. But MSTX and MSTU, I'm very much into leverage. And then again, Mara, I'm very much into leverage too. And I will probably continue to do that and go into those. And Tesla today, Tesla's down, the TSLL is down 11%. So I might actually sell a little bit of that too. We'll see what happens. Let's see, 521. I'm just going to look here. Yeah, but let me get over here. We'll just keep this going. And actually, maybe I'll just bring up the heat map to show how bad the markets are doing today. So again, I think this is the bottoming week, though. I think this is really the bottoming week, guys. So you can see here where we were pre-market, and then where we are now, and it's dropping. And I'm actually kind of liking some of that drop. I'm not hating it. So let me see here real quick. 565. Let me see here. I'll do like 40.6. All right. Again, though, I'm looking to take advantage a little bit of this dippity dip. But I ain't worried. Jesse, are you selling MSTR at a loss and then moving it into MSTU? It's probably, some of it's probably at a loss, but the stuff I just sold, I mean, shit, I didn't even look at it. I think the stuff I just sold in my wife's account was up higher. Redfin's up 75% today. Are you serious? What did they do? What the fuck is going on there? Let me check real quick. Do we have news on Redfin? Let's see. Let's go over here and see what we got. Oh, what is their ticker? What is their ticker? Yeah, you know what? I'll just do this. I don't remember off the top of my head. Oh, RDFN. Okay, let me do that instead. I'm curious. Do you think this is the bottoming week, even though we have 1 to 2 more months of macro pain? I don't even, again, the macro pain, though, the markets are forward-looking. So I think we could have more pain in 3 weeks after we have the reciprocal tariffs that come out on 4/2. But markets are forward-looking, and they're going to end up doing well. Rocket Mortgage is acquiring Redfin. That's why it's up. It's an acquisition. So it's like Matterport, where it doubled really quickly, and then I got the fuck out of it because my calls were way too far out. So it's just an acquisition. That makes sense. Rocket Mortgage, it's probably smart of them to do that too. And Redfin probably needs that capital injection because it's been a rough time for them. So I don't think that's crazy at all. I think that's probably the right move. Oh, let me see here. All right, let me just check something real quick. Yeah, I'm just going to sit on that. So yeah, I'm going to chill. So I moved about 27,000. I should probably post that real quick. Let me go over here, and I will pull that up just to show my move here. Hood under 40. Yeah, Hood's getting butchered. And so again, guys, when you look at the markets, don't feel too bad because a lot of it, like I showed in my portfolio, a lot of it has just been butchered. You're not alone. Even if you're just crypto's pretty rough. But if you look here, we're looking at an almost 40% drop in Hood from the highs on February 10th, a month ago. So Hood has dropped 40% in a fucking month. So if you're feeling bad, just realize that you're not alone. There's a lot of people that have been hit, even in things that we're doing really, really well, like Palantir. Let's look at Palantir here too. We'll take a look at that in a second. Let me just get this trade out super fast so people know that I've done something. Sold some MSTR and bought MSTU. Down 16% on that day. Or 16.5. Let me do that. 16.5. And it looks like it's down even further. So hopefully I'll close out some of this other stuff and I'll be able to buy more. All right. Oh, and I just did that for everybody, not subs only. Whoops, my bad. Whatever. Fuck it. Freebie. All right. Let me post this in the Discord. Real fast here. Don't want to forget about the Discord. Oh, and I just sold some here. So it looks like I got some more cash. So I might have to spend some more money. Everyone. Boom, boom. All right, that's in there. Let me see here. I got more cash. More cash for spending. More cash for spending. That's probably all I'm going to do today. Yeah, probably all. I might do more. We'll see. I might do more. We'll see. Let me see here. All right, so I got some cash over here. Oh, I just sold a little bit. It's not that much, actually. Bubba. All right, let me see here. Do this. I'll be able to buy some stuff. Real close. 190. All right, I did another tiny little purchase. It's such a small amount of money, though, it doesn't really matter, so I'll post more about it later. Heavy into MSTX and TLT. I think TLT is a nice cushion, man, just because today it's probably going to be up at least 5% or more. Again, if it's not bleeding, that's actually at least acting as cash, and I think we're set for an upward move in it, which means I don't want to sell too much of it. I want to hold on to that as much as I can. Why is the whole market dropping and Enphase is up 1.6? I couldn't tell you. Let's look real quickly, though. So, again, Hood getting butchered, down 8%, down almost 40% in total. What is Palantir doing? Let me pull that up real quick, too. Palantir down almost 6%. Again, I would say it's consolidating, actually, pretty nicely here. This is a nice little shelf that it's on. Maybe it ends up going lower, but again, it looks like the first tier of support is holding on pretty strong. But on that same note, this thing is down, 36% from its recent high too. So it's had a rough time as well. But it seems like it's still holding strength here. We'll see if it ends up dropping. If it ends up dropping, you could expect support down to like the 74, 73 range, probably like right about here. And then if it couldn't hold that, it would go further. But it feels strong right now. I mean, this is a nice consolidation that we're seeing. If anything, it looks like it's going to go back up. Let's see what else we have here. Any other charts that you guys want to look at? CLSK down 3%, down 2.94 actually. So pretty good. Pretty good considering the large drop in Bitcoin recently. If we did a comparison of like a clean spark to Bitcoin ratio, this is good. This is real good. So it's still down 65% from where it was in March of this last year, so about a year ago. Good day to sell 75 puts on Palantir. Ugh, I don't know about that, dude. Because again, I don't know. It hasn't dropped that much, but it does seem like it's bottoming. So totally up to you, man. I bought Nike at 70 as my cash, now at 78. Going to use that to buy MSTX. Sounds like a good plan to me. Not a financial advisor, of course. Tezos, ma'am, why the whole market? Oh, that was you with Enphase. Yeah, I don't know with Enphase. I don't know what it's doing. Do you guys have other stocks that you want to look at, though? Here, let me pull up. I'll pull up Mara. I'll look at some of the miners and how they're doing. So let's just see here. So Mara down 5.74% on the day. My friend Crypto Klepto thinks that this is going to turn green by the end of the day. If it does, it's a really bullish sign for miners because, as I've said before, miners usually go first. So they'll start to recover. When you found a bottom, miners are usually finding it first, and you want that. I'm going to take out this other line in here. Get rid of that one. I'm trying to be very conservative on Mara, so I'm looking just for previous peaks here in 2021, even though there was a lot of dilution. Mara has a huge bag of Bitcoin, the biggest miner by far, and I think that these guys are going to get a premium for that reason. Energy sector in EU, also great hedge right now. Yeah, I don't know much about that play. I don't know, man. I worry about energy in the EU. Is this like the producers, or is this the companies that just carry on the cost? Like which part of the energy sector are you playing with? I'm poor this month, BITF. I don't really love BITF, not as much as some of these others. Again, it could end up outperforming though because it's a really small cap, but I'm not in love with it by any means at all. Let's see here. So we got MSTX is down 15% now, 14% in recovering. Same with MSTU. So we're seeing some recovery there. BITX is recovering a little bit too, it looks like. I sold just a hair of TLT, about $7,000 worth, and I bought some BITX on that. So I put about 35,000 in capital to work today back into crypto with these leverage positions. Probably lost more than that on them, so I haven't put a lot in. But again, we'll see. I think these things could do really well. But I also don't want to sell my TLT too early. Archie calls holding while the stock is down 2%. You get to a point where the calls have bled out so much that they don't have a lot of downside. So yeah, I could see that. I could totally see that. All right, what else we got here? Anybody else? Trump coin up 5%. Woohoo. Ethereum up 4%. Woohoo. Iron down 6%. But hitting the 100 moving average on the weekly time frame. Maybe it'll find support on there. Oh, hey, let's look at the S&P today. Actually, real quick. So, Jesse, Yvonne said, Jesse, do you get emotionally affected by this downside? Curious. You seem pretty resilient. I do, but not to the same degree that I used to. And if anything, sometimes my biggest fear with a lot of downside is probably the opposite of what other people have. I can get too irrationally exuberant and want and get excited about the market. So I'm not like your average Joe when it comes to stuff like that. I have wired my mind in the opposite direction compared to a lot of people. so I get excited when markets are down, whereas other people will freak out and lose their minds. I get excited, and especially now that I feel like I have a really good hedge with TLT, it just lets me know that if things get weird, even for like 2-3 months, I think I'm going to have additional capital that I can apply to be able to offset that weirdness. So, and right now, if you look, guys, on the S&P, we are still finding support on the .618 or trying to. So that's a good sign. We've got what looks to be a double top. Could we wick down though and go lower? I don't know. It's possible. I don't think you can discount the fact that it's possible. And again, even though Jake was showing from a technical standpoint how it's very possible that it could do that. But I do think the fundamentals are very different, but it just depends on how short-sighted the market is. Things getting hit the most in my account, still MSTX, down 17%. Archie, I am actually seeing Archie calls down. I don't know if that's updated, though. Maybe that hasn't, because calls don't necessarily update really well. TSLL, so again, Tesla getting hit pretty hard right now. Let's look over here real quick. Microstrategy down 8.72%. Finding a real good volume shelf here, guys. This is a great place to find support, and now we have a gap above us. So if you don't own any of this, I would say that this is a great time to get in. And again, yeah, right there. So we got a gap above us right now that we're going to want to fill, and MSTX is down. Or I'm sorry, MSTR is down 52%. MSTX is probably down like 87 or 9 or something. I don't even know what it's at. It's down a lot. Maybe 90. I don't know. Morning, Jesse. How's the health journey going? Still good. I haven't been doing as much with the tracking because I just don't have a lot of time right now. But I've still been eating healthy and I'm still working out, and that's what I'm going to be doing after this. So my health journey is still good. I've really got to loosen up my muscles though and work on stretching more. That's my big thing. History guy scalps. Jesse, I bottoming in market likely this week unless CPI and PPI come in hot. Really seems very possible. I agree. I 100% agree. But again, we'll see what happens. If it gets worse for longer, then we just eat some losses. I wouldn't even care if I got down to $3 million. That wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me at all. If we dropped to 3 million, and for my balance from the 7 that I was at before, I will just use my TLT and slowly leverage into it and just apply more and more and more until we finally get our market upturn, because I strongly believe that one is coming, and I will use that hedge to be able to capitalize on it. That's the way I look at it. So that's the way I look at it. Oh, and I just had some more TLT up. I don't know what it was up on the day. It was up a little bit. But yeah, I'm probably not going to sell any more, but I do have some left over, so maybe I'll do some more buying. Let me see here real quick. How much do I have? And I'll update this in a second. Let me see. Oh, it's just a tiny amount. I don't care. I'll leave it alone. Want to buy Tesla dip, but I'm in Tesla. You could, again, it's riskier, but you could go to TSLL. So real quickly here, guys, just to give you an idea, this is if you think that Tesla's getting near the bottom, and you feel really confident in that. So TSLL is a 2x play for Tesla. It's a 2x bull, and right now it is down here. So it is lost in what, 2 months? A little over 2 months, about 10 weeks. It has lost 77% of its value, which is a huge number because Tesla, again, is down a lot. Well, let me find Tesla real quick here. Where's Tesla? That's Bitcoin. Watch symbol list. Is this Tesla? This is Tesla. Okay. So Tesla is, again, down into the green support zone. It could go down further, though. It could go down to the 220 range. That's another 10% drop, which would be 20% in TSLL. But you could slowly convert some of that Tesla stock and put it into that. And if you did that, then you would be able to essentially kind of buy the dip with leverage. That's what I do. It just depends on your confidence level with Tesla and whether or not you think it's going to rebound from here. But again, just be ready for the potential of another 20% downside in TSLL if Tesla drops 10%. Or you could just wait. You could wait until Tesla gets down here to the 220 range. And if it does that, it's hitting a trend line that goes back into 2022, the end of 2021. So at the time that the Fed raised rates at the most aggressive rate in history. So that's the downward trend line that we're looking to bounce up from. Actually, it might need to be redrawn. I think something reset here. Let me fix that. Yeah, no, it's lower. It's lower. I got to draw my box lower. It didn't save. Let me save this real quick. And I'll do this too. So it's even lower. So forget what I said earlier, guys. It's closer to 200. So you could see 20% downside in Tesla. So maybe don't buy that too aggressively. Maybe don't buy it too aggressively because we could still go lower. And I was doing a trend-based fib extension just to see what the next level would be at. And it was 420 for the .618. But honestly, I mean, it could end up going down to here. So you got to be ready for that, I think. And just be ready for more damage. And I'm going to take my fib out because I'll just put the retracement back in later. Wow, that was kind of a joke, but didn't know that TSLL was an option. That's what I do. But again, take it slowly. If we've got a 20% drop in Tesla from where we're at, that's still going to be painful. So, and again, there's just such a negative narrative. So if you did it, I would do it very, very slowly. That way, again, you're kind of giving yourself a multiplier for upside, but you don't want a 20% drop from here. You don't want to lose too much of that money because that would be a 40% drop, probably maybe even 45% drop in TSLL. So I would take it super slow. Audric said, I was in an X space yesterday. This guy was saying BTC was going to 10K. I feel like that's fucking stupid. Don't listen to people like that. There's fucking morons. Here's the thing with Bitcoin. When Bitcoin, I've called bottoms really well in Bitcoin, like almost perfectly throughout my time here. I didn't realize the halving existed, so I lost a shit ton here, and I didn't know about technicals, so I lost a ton over here. But then once I learned everything about the halving, and I learned about Twitter's down, interesting, and I learned about technicals and all this other stuff. I was buying aggressively. This is when I was at 49,000, right around here, guys, or negative $49,000. This is when my account looked like this. Let me just show you. This is when I started to get rich. Negative $46,000 in 2019. That was right after Bitcoin had dropped down to here, and I just lost tons of money at the end of 2018 to 2019, and that started my career of wealth building. Then the pandemic came. You think we got tough days right now on Bitcoin over here, guys? This was the pandemic. Do you know how many people we lost in Bitcoin when we dropped down to here? Do you know how many people we lost? Do you know how many people we lost when we went down 63% from February 20th to March? Do you know how many people we lost? I didn't have a lot of people buying with me down here. There weren't a lot, okay? And again, when we double topped over here and went down over here, I called this as a bottom. There were plenty of people that said we were going to go much lower because we had to fill this gap in volume over here. They said we were going to 12,000. They said we were going down to 6,500. Just all this bullshit. And it didn't happen. And it doesn't have to happen. And anybody saying, what, 10,000, 15,000? That Bitcoin's dead. If that happens, Bitcoin's dead. Does that seem like something that's happening based upon what we know about Bitcoin right now? I would say no. Jesse, is BTC bottoming, you think? Oh, it's probably close. It's probably real close. It's probably real close. Miners though are getting hit, so they're suffering a little bit of pain. I think if we're not in today, let me just pull up Bitcoin. I think if we're not in today with the levels that we're at right now, and I kind of pointed this out, and I can pull up, you know what, I'll just pull up the post. Let me go back over here. Give me 1 second. Subs, let's see, right over here. Oh, you said this is down though. Is it down still? Nope, it's back. Okay, cool, here we go. So I said Bitcoin, here's the levels that you got to look at. 78,000, because that's this upward trend line that we were looking at over here. So this is the next area. If we can't hold that, then it's going to be the 67,000, the low peak in volumes, to 65,500. This is where Mark Newton was talking about, is right over here, this area over here. So if we get down, if we do drop, it's going to be into the 60s. And that would be a time where I would apply hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital towards Bitcoin. If we get down here, I will apply a shit ton of money towards Bitcoin. Maybe $500,000 even towards Bitcoin related investments. I would put in a lot of money towards that. Double shakeout completed, up starting this week. It could be. I mean, again, it's Monday morning, so it looks like BITX is down 13%. Bitcoin is dropping though. So let me get out of here and actually find the chart. Where is it? Microstrategy down 10%. Excuse me. So yeah, right over here, 81,549. This is probably max pain, but if we break down underneath of this, then again, like I said, we're testing the 77,000 range. Then we're testing down over here towards like the 77 to 75 as a zone. And then back over here, we start to hit massive volume. If you just zoom out here, this will probably shrink up a little bit, but you'll see this massive volume towards the 72 range and into the 60s. We hit the fib, we hit peak volumes across this time frame. So we had a ton of support in here. And Mark Newton is about as conservative of a guy as you can get in regard to what can happen with Bitcoin's price. So I would totally agree with him. Excuse me, Stevie G. Tesla has got historical trend line on a larger time frame, which would take it down to 175. I'm in TSLL, so a little concerning. I don't think yeah. Can anything wick down for a moment in time? Sure. But I don't think it would last a day at that level. A day. Because this is a huge washout. This is a huge washout. Just look at the amount. Tesla has never seen this amount of downward pressure in this short period of time. Never. Never. They didn't see this from October 21st all the way down to January 2023 when it dropped 75%. It did not see a decline that looked like this. This is a huge, huge revaluation of Tesla shares. So it can go further. Again, from our current level, it could drop 20%. That could happen for a back test, sure. But I just don't, it isn't going to stay here for that long. But again, this is only making up like 2% of my position right now. So it's a little bit lower. All right, let me see what else. Check the longer term trend line. My overall comment was I'm bullish overall. Okay. Yeah, no, again, and if you're looking at this trend line here, sure. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. This is a great time to pick it up. Just be ready for a little more downside price pressure. That's all you got to do. CleanSpark calls getting whooped today, and it looks like ARCG are getting whooped. They're down. The shorter ones, the January 2026s, are down 15%, but my June 2026s are up 4%. That is fascinating. So people are dialing out their leverage to allow for more time. BITX has been taking a lot of a hit the last few weeks. Well, that's because Bitcoin is. It's a 2x fund of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is taking quite the hit over the last 2 weeks. So if Bitcoin's taking the hit, you know it is too. That's just kind of how the math works. And let's see here. What did it? Bitcoin's dropped. Yeah, 15% roughly in that amount of time almost. And that's since March 2nd. So yeah, 30%, maybe a little bit more on BITX. That makes sense. It makes sense that it would take that hit. Yeah, I'm just trying to see are there any other charts you guys want to talk about? It's almost 9 o'clock. We don't have data. I might call it. I've been doing this for a little over 2 hours. It's my first day back. I think I covered a lot of the good stuff that we have coming in front of us. We know there can be downside price action over the next several weeks. And again, maybe don't be too aggressive on dialing into the markets. But I do think that we're finding bottoming patterns. I can even see that in things like NVIDIA. Let me just pull this over real quick. Again, just like look at this trend line right here. So this is going back to June of 2024. Resistance, 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 support, support, support. And again, if we dial it out on the daily, it looks a little bit different. And maybe this actually needs to be pulled up a little bit. It's just a hair off. Yeah, so we wick down. And again, over here, we had resistance. Probably draw it like kind of like that. So resistance, 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 resistance. Support, 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 support. So I don't know. I'm seeing consolidation all around here where I think we can turn around. Jesse, what's your time horizon on TSLL, given it's a leveraged instrument? I wouldn't keep it forever, but if you got like a doubling or something and it's a leveraged instrument, so I would end up selling out probably and just converting it over to Tesla stock. You don't want to hold these things forever. But again, the fastest drop in Tesla's history is saying something. It's saying a lot. Let me see. Where did I have that chart? Damn it. There it is. So when you've dropped, and again, right now we're not at 55%, but we're down 51%. And look at this volume right here. This is peak volume. So we're sitting right at peak volumes going all the way back to, what is this time frame? 2020. Peak volumes. We're right there right now. This is a really high likelihood area of support for Tesla. So it's not a bad area at all, guys. It's not a bad area at all. And it looks like TLT calls are up about 8% on the day, which is a pretty good number. I might even sell a little bit. I'm not going to lie. We'll see. I got to take advantage of some of this, man. I got to take advantage. 8% up on TLT is a big number. It's a big number. On a day like today where this other stuff is just bleeding out, it's a big number. So I'm going to let some of that sit, and then if I end up buying, well, shit, I guess I'm buying. All right, let's see. How much money do I have? I didn't realize those were going to close so quickly. Everybody's jumping into TLT. That's great. All right, I guess I have buying power. I've got $61,000. I'm going to buy some TSLL today. I'm just going to get a little bit of that. Let me see. I'm probably going to get like 2,500. You know what? I'll do like 1,500 on TSLL. So again, I'm stacking my Tesla, and that's only 13,500. Maybe I'll end up doing more. That's down 15% on the day, guys. 15% on TSLL on the day with something I'm up 7-8% on. And MSTX really getting butchered. Let's see, MSTU. What is MSTU down today? MSTU, I want to diversify. It's down 23%. I like that. I'm going to buy some of that. Let me see here. I want to diversify. I don't want to just be in one instrument because, again, you got single instrument or company risk. So the less single risk I have, the better. So let me see. What does 5,000 of these get me? Probably not enough. Oh, okay. That's pretty good. All right. All right, so I'll post these trades in a little bit. I'm probably going to be done here. It looks like I got family upstairs. I can hear them. Let me see here real quick. I think I just closed that out. Let me see. What do I have for cash? Yeah, okay, cool. I'll post my trades in a second here. But again, I think just be casual. I've sold about 80,000, I think, in TLT today. That was up about 8% on the day. And then I bought instruments that are down probably an average of 15 to 16%. Well, actually, with the last batch, it was down 24. So I'm liking some of this. If we drop more, I might end up selling more. I'm not going to get too crazy with it, though. That's probably enough for me for the day. But again, just think long term. I'm not going to play any videos because I actually got copyright struck on that FAFO one. And so I'm going to stay away from that. So we're just going to close quickly here. So I love you guys. Take it easy. Don't freak out. Try and be calculated. If you need to, take a break and step away. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. I love you guys. Peace.